Hang on. I'm waiting for it to click go live, man. I hit the button. I hit the button.
There it is. Good evening. Welcome to your Ass Hurts News Network, coming to you live from the tip top of Cock Tower Square with your host, Sergeant Friday. Sarge, how you doing?
Well, Cletus, I'm doing awesome. Awesome. I have very, very few bad days. Yeah, I'm just loving it. I'm living like a billionaire.
Well, there you go.
Trump prefers to golf. I prefer to swim. You know what I'm saying?
Living like a billionaire in a kiddie pool, huh?
Fucking A, bro. You know, it's like that. He plays on golf courses around the globe. I go to fucking putt golf. It's all good, brother.
Hey,
same shit, different fucking level. That's all.
There you go. You got to walk less that way.
Yeah, you know what I mean? When you got that much time to do things, and you know, you choose to do the things you enjoy, regardless of how expensive they may in fact be. Having that time to do what you want with is like, you can't put a price on that, brother.
Well, and I mean, considering you're self-proclaimed lazy, I think putt makes more sense than a full fucking golf course for you. Because if you don't like the hole you're on, you can just step 3 feet and go to the next one.
Right. But if I was on a golf course, I'd have to have a souped-up golf cart.
Yeah.
So that when I got pissed, I could just do a huge burnout all the way down the fairway. Everybody would know I was there. Oh, must have had a bad game today. Look out for the ruts. Yes, sir. I probably have enough bad games where you might consider those ruts canals. It would be pretty bad. I don't golf well. The only time I ever went as a kid is so that me and my best friend could go smoke cigarettes. That's why we went golfing.
Yeah. I went quite a bit as a kid, but I hadn't been in a long time.
We need more Clue and you to you two. Well, listen, I've been spending a lot of time in places I've never knew and never had gone to before. Primarily, black channels and channels of people that you would naturally think disagree with you, right?
Okay.
And it got me to a pondering. And that's bad when Sarge ponders because he comes up with some crazy shit.
No.
But it's just so crazy that it actually seems more likely than any other explanation we've ever been given why Kennedy was shot.
Okay.
All right.
I'm listening.
So what do you know? What is a common thing that he was killed by the CIA, right?
I've heard that, yeah.
What other theories are we aware of? Killed by the mafia?
I think I've heard the mafia, the CIA, Russians,
Cubans.
Yeah, Cubans.
Yeah. I know you won't smoke a Cuban, but you'll suck one, right?
Negative, Sarge. Negative.
I don't even know where the fuck that came from.
I don't either. But
dude, I know I heard it somewhere. Listen, I heard that. Somewhere that statement. I was like,
the reference to that fucking horrible
brother,
joke.
I didn't even know if I was ever going to be able to use it, but I thought it was funny as fuck. And then suddenly, in the least likely place of all, Kennedy's assassination, I get to use it. It's just crazy, bro. I love when my universe comes together.
There you go. Glad I made your day. Glad I gave you the opportunity.
Look, that's just crazy, right? All right, what are the theories that are well founded, or at least
I don't know that
highly plausible.
I don't know that I know of any. I haven't
more than one shooter and all that other crazy shit.
Yeah, and the more than one shooter, I have heard that one several times. Probably more than anything, honestly.
It's a Gooder film, and they're blaming the New Orleans mob and all of that, right?
Yeah, I don't. The multiple shooter thing, I think, is probably the most popular one that I've been aware of.
And does anybody in the chat room, and there's only 30 of you, so this is more of like an intimate discussion than it is a big conspiracy theory. But does anybody in the chat room know why, or have any idea if they thought why he was killed? What do you think the reason was why he was killed?
I would have to know more.
I know some of the theories. His brother was going after the mafia, right? Bobby Kennedy. He got killed. He spoke of exposing secret societies, so a lot of people do buy into that. He was going to talk. There's so great pearls putting stuff out. He has all the hidden conspiracy on Trump has got. Trump sure used him to his advantage. He almost lost his head a couple of weeks ago. Right? You need to speak before the bullets start flying, buddy. Anyway,
it might have been aliens since he was talking about going to the moon, and they're like, "Fuck no, you motherfuckers aren't coming outside of your your room."
All right. I think I've come up with probably the most likely motive that I don't think anybody can ever can actually take apart and show it to be like impossible or ridiculous. You ready to hear this?
I'm ready.
From 1865 forward, we'll go. Okay, we won't even go from after the Civil War, but let's just start with we'll claim even modern society at the year 1900. So let's start there. And in modern society, 1900, although Black Americans were free from slavery, they were still highly discriminated against as a subculture, a subhuman. Correct? You see that?
Yeah.
Couldn't go on the bus until a certain seat. Couldn't theaters, bars, nightclubs. Their actions were highly restrictive, and they were kept in very, very low down sort of housing. Okay.
Right.
And this continued on all the way into World War II, where they were considered unable to even to fly planes or be effective in combat to drive a tank. And they were highly discriminated against then as well. And they were also the soldiers that when they came home, they said they went and fought to die for a country that doesn't give them the same right of the other citizens of the country. Right? Mm-hmm. So all of this is going on, folks. All of this is going on. And one man came forward and wanted to change that. And his name happens to be John Fitzgerald Kennedy. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, unlike his family, had an independent experience with everyday people like you and me, and that included people of different colors and cultures. He became a commander of a PT boat and was heroic and when his boat was attacked and saving the people that were there. So Mr. Kennedy comes back and he becomes a senator and then runs for presidency. But in 1957, or somewhere between 57 and 60, he conceives of the Civil Rights Act. Okay? Mm-hmm. And now this is where you really have to put yourself in other people's shoes. Imagine a nation of democratically controlled Congress and Senate who had controlled it for a good part of the 19th or the 20th century and were still in big control of these houses of government, who were all racist and pro-Jim Crow, didn't want blacks on buses or going to your schools. These were the Democrats of the day. Yet John F. Kennedy was in that group, and he was not a Democrat of the day. John F. Kennedy then went and proceeded and brought Mr. Martin Luther King into the White House. Highly egregious act to let a nigger in that White House. Yet John F. Kennedy broke that standard. And I suppose, folks, I propose to you that if you continue walking this narrative forward and look at the timeline, I think you'll see that John F. Kennedy was in fact killed by your government, but because he supported blacks, because he was giving blacks what they wanted, which was equal rights, the right to vote. That's the path Mr. Kennedy put the country on. And I'm telling you today that after analysis and walking through all these other different channels and listening to other people's particular points of view, I think that that's as good of a reason to have killed him and killed him by the government, taken action against him because he was doing what he was supposed to do for the blacks in his mind, which was contradictory to the Democratic KKK at the time. Do you follow that reasoning?
No, I do. It makes sense. It's a very plausible theory. I would have to know more about the situation to, I could see that absolutely making sense and being why there have been so many conspiracy theories developed. instead of the simple underlying truth of the situation coming out, because that's something that would never come out.
Well,
You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, let
That
me add
would,
something to people just so you remember. Look, Rosa Parks celebrating a lifetime. On December 1st, Rosa Parks refused to sit in the back of the bus. John F. Kennedy started this. He worked with Martin Luther King on the march, the march on the Capitol. He allowed that to go forward. He brought King into the White House. Okay. He did all these things that Democrats at that time were 100% against black people. That Rosa Parks story from 1955. I'm sorry, not 65. It was 55. But that started it all out. It all starts in that area around Kennedy coming into the scene of the presidency, and then Kennedy working to craft that legislation that was later signed by Johnson after he was killed. And it was signed by Johnson, folks, because he had no alternative. He could not sign it. The problem that happened in 1963 or 4, when that was in the 64 bill, when it was passed, Cletus, was that there were 68 Democrats in the Senate and 32 Republicans, makes the total of 100. Okay. And 51 Democrats voted for that bill, but also realized this was done after the killing of President Kennedy, who stood for this bill. So they kind of were cornered. 51 of them vote. It's not enough to pass it. Yet of the 32 Republicans, 30 of them voted, giving the Senate an 81 vote pass on the Civil Rights Act. So when it lands on Johnson's desk, it's veto proof. He can't veto the bill because you only need 75 senators to override a presidential veto. You need 2/3. Okay. So there was no way that he was actually going to stop that law from being passed. And he signed it. In his statement, these niggers will never vote for a Republican for the next 50 years, was because he knew that they were going to be able to manipulate this narrative to show that the Democrats were the friends of the blacks. But just before they became the friends of the blacks, they were still hanging them, burning crosses, and keeping them out of the schools, keeping them out of restaurants, and doing all the racist, destructive things to the black community. The Democratic Party is responsible for that. So that's my proposal, is that John F. Kennedy was shot because of the cultivation of himself within the Black Party, with trying to get the Equal Rights Act passed and everything else. That's what I think got Mr. Kennedy shot. Who actually did it can be argued about forever, but I think it's unfair for that motive never to really have been in the public. I've never heard this anywhere else. But as I sit and think about history and try to look at what I know and what I'm learning, that to me seems like more of a reason than Cuba, more of a reason than the Bay of Pigs, more of the reason than a mafia hit. Okay. Not to say a Cuban and a mafia and a CIA guy weren't working on getting them killed. I'm saying the reason was because he was courting the black American. All right. What do you think?
I wouldn't say because he was courting them. I would say it's more, if I'm going to go down this road, it's more about what he's removing the separation, right? He's setting things up so that the segregation ends.
The racism, the divisions, yeah. Well, the actual act of preventing people access to schools and to different businesses, right? That's what he was removing.
Yeah, and what we've seen. I mean, I don't think, in my mind, you can't really argue it. Instead of it being segregation, now it's things have changed to where they're taken advantage of. They're used as a virtue signaling tool to win elections instead of really being treated fairly, right? And it's a matter of, okay, well, we're going to virtue signal to these people to try and get their votes, and then as soon as we win their votes, we don't give a shit.
No, you're talking about modern times, but the modern times, if I continue forward with the narrative, you'll see that what the Democratic Party ended up doing, I don't know that everybody that hated blacks within the Democratic Party wanted Kennedy dead, but there was certainly, I believe, a faction of them that were willing to kill this guy to stop that bill. And what ended up happening, though, is his death brought all of these blacks out to mourn for a Democratic president.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were stuck. They learned to take an advantage of that and say that that's when Republicans changed teams. But in fact, 94% of all Republicans in the Senate voted Only 2 of them abstained out of 30. 32, 2 abstained. The Democratic Party, 17 out of 68 abstained. So even if you tried to do the math, well, again, the math doesn't make sense in that if there were 68 Republicans, only 5 or 6 of them would have stepped out, not the 17 like the Democrats.
Right.
Okay. And there was no way that bill would have passed if the 30 Republicans didn't go along with it.
Right.
The Republicans could have stopped that passage because the Democrats didn't have enough votes. But not only did they enable its passage, they gave it a veto-proof presentation to Johnson. They turned that against everybody, saying, look how good and how supportive we are of blacks. That's where the narrative changed. The actions of Democrats against blacks never stopped. But they hide behind this narrative they're pro-black. Hillary carries
right. They virtue and it's instead of instead of keeping them down and blatantly keeping them down, it's okay. Well, we'll make them. We'll present that everybody. We're gonna put them up on a pedestal, but really we're just using the shit out of them to virtue signal to try and win an election.
Right, but you see how consistent that is with how the Democratic Party has treated the black all throughout history in America. And you know what? Part of me is offended. Okay, not just because I'm part of the human race. I'm offended because you could probably track more black people's heritage back to the 14 and 1500s on this land than you can whites. What do you want to bet?
I don't doubt that.
Have as many or more black families' heritage that have got hundreds and hundreds of years on this soil. Most of us whites came over during the at the end of the mini ice age on the Titanics and the big giant ocean liners. That's where a lot of white Europeans came over here. I mean, I know they started the place, but their biggest injunction was during that period of immigration, and all the blacks that were here at that time, all of them, without a doubt, came from Africa and gave birth to children here that were now American, right?
Right.
There weren't blacks in Europe jumping on boats looking to come over here. So my point is that blacks have actually a longer, deeper root to this country than many, if not most, Americans that are alive today. It's kind of crazy when you think about it.
It's a fair argument. I mean, the data would have to. I would be interested to see the data, but it's a fair point to make.
Well, I don't know any white slave owners that own just one slave. It was never one to one, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm sitting here contemplating. Yeah, I mean,
man. So you got to think. So if there were 1 million original settlers, let's say there was 750,000 blacks then, but all 750,000 are here, and then they grew families from that 750,000. So every black that was here for the longest for hundreds of years were all produced. They were brought here, bred here, and multiplied here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when you continue forward in their lineage, modern day Americans certainly have connection to slave families that go back hundreds of years, just like people have relationships to slave owners that go back hundreds of years. I mean, it's not your fault, Cletus. Your great-great-grandfather owned slaves. Who am I to judge? I'm just fucking with you, bro. But you know what I'm saying? I'm just fucking with you. I don't even know. I just want to get a response out of you.
I'm just sitting here thinking. And no, my great-great-grandfather wouldn't have, because one side came from, potentially came from Illinois, and the other side's Native American. So,
no, but so again, when I look at history, and I that's never been brought up in the Kennedy assassination. There has never been the component of that Civil Rights Act being used and looked at through the lens of, could this have something to do with a motive to kill that man? And I think because of the time in history, because of the vitriol and the hate and the racism, I think that was a more pointed reason to kill him and his brother and Martin Luther King, right?
Mm-hmm.
That can't all be a coincidence. His brother was going to continue on with the civil rights fight if he was to be elected. And then he was killed. So
no, I mean, I don't think it's a bad argument to make. Right. I mean, like you say, I don't know how in the hell you would ever discount it, because there's way more plausibility to that than in terms of a motive than really anything.
I think so. I'm glad you said it. Because I've been pondering this. I wanted to get this off my head and share it with people and get feedback, because, that's how my brain works.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a real plausible motive that makes a lot of sense when you consider everything else that goes along with it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and to me, it's consistent with how the Democrats have either directly subjugated or controlled the black community. It's never stopped. It's never stopped from the inception of their freedom forward. It's always been Democrats that have subjugated these folks. I mean, their most coveted woman, Margaret Sanger, who created Planned Parenthood in her own words to eliminate the undesirables and the Negro. That was the whole point of Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
And you get Hillary Clinton being given awards. How about that senator that was a grand master of the KKK? His name was
Oh,
Thurman or something.
uh,
That was her mentor.
yeah. I can't think of his name, but I know who you're talking about.
You know who I mean? That old grizzly motherfucker when he died.
Yeah.
Looked like the skin didn't even want to be on his bones. It was like, I'm sick of this fucking shit. Get me out of here. Right?
Uh,
Holy fuck, he was a fucked up looking guy. This might sound mean. I don't care what anybody says. President Bush had done enough damage to this country and to foreign affairs that I thought it was ironic that he was in that wheelchair with that fucking expression like a freight train was about to hit him. Did you ever see Bush towards the end?
No, I didn't see him toward the end.
Oh, dude, he had this fucking. You ever see those old guys that sometimes have that permanent scream on their face, like their eyes are wide, their mouth is wide open?
Yeah.
Like they're gonna get hit by a train.
Yep.
Or attacked, or yeah, he had that going for him towards the end, and he was still ass grabbing. I got to get a picture and put it up on the screen, man. Holy fuck! SK216, Senny is in here. There's a bunch of people in here. So where else can we talk about? How about you create a topic? That's kind of what I wanted to get spit out of my brain.
I don't know. You got my gears turning on this a little bit because I'm sitting here thinking about the things that you can look into to try and validate that theory.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I did look, and I'm just saying it's obvious that the way the black community was treated in the 50s, the 40s, the 60s, the 30s, the 20s, there is subjugation, and Kennedy came to break that. And he did. Even in death, he did.
Right.
And I believe the Voting Rights Act of 1965 prohibits racial discrimination in voting. It was signed into law by President Johnson. But that was Johnson didn't want that. This is the other irony, is that Johnson didn't like black people at all, bro. He was openly hater.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the day were. That's the way it was, man, back then in the 50s and 60s. It was like expected that if you were white, you should hate black people.
Yeah.
And we forget that part of our society. And then when you look at the JFK assassination taking place, and he's the man spearheading that revolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Against his own party that would rather he just shut the fuck up.
So instead, they shut him up. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It flows, right? And I think it's something that could be. I think you could connect more dots together than not to make it work. You know what I mean?
I think you could connect more conclusive dots together on this particular motive than any other motive at all.
Yeah.
The Cubans, right? And they try to connect Oswald the Cuban to Russia, the Russians, the mafia. Those are all ancillary connections that if their involvement is there at all, it would be because the black haters wanted him dead. Do you follow me?
Yeah.
They don't in and of themselves make the most comfortable explanation to motive. The Cubans individually doesn't, even with the Bay of Pigs, it doesn't sound right. I mean, you're 90 miles off our shore. If you kill our president, you're kind of fucked.
Right.
Russia, we had, between the two of us, 10, 12,000 warheads pointed at each other. It didn't make sense for them to come kill him either. Yeah. Matter of fact, I think the leader at the time, was it Khrushchev or maybe it wasn't Khrushchev, I forget it, was amused by Kennedy, the Russian leader, believe it or not. He was amused by John F. Kennedy and that he was young. Pardon me?
I wonder if if he was more amused by Kennedy than Putin is of Biden.
Well, no, in a different kind of a way, though.
No, I
Not
know
not
what
in this like,
I
you
know what
know,
you're saying. Yeah,
he thought he was a much more thoughtful and more capable guy than he originally had determined. He just had assumed himself.
yeah.
The Kennedys were dirty, and that made listen. I'm not saying any of these people aren't dirty, but that's not really part of the narrative I'm trying to point out when it comes to are any of the motives that we've been told to look at or told to this, that we've all fallen into discussion of. The only motive we've never covered is Kennedy's connection to the black civil rights movement. And we're not connecting it because we're not really paying attention to just how subjugated blacks were that short time period ago. That was, 1960s, what, 60, 64 years ago?
Yeah.
That's not even a lifetime.
Right.
And blacks were treated that way. And this guy decided that was not going to float no more. And
well, it really makes you wonder if if this hasn't become a theory that's out in the public and really talked about, because when you dig a little bit deeper than the surface, you see that there's some big problem with it. Or is it because it would sort of let the cat out of the bag?
I'd be very honest with you. I think we can ask you guys put a one in there if you agree with the statement. I've never heard the civil rights movement, the civil rights acts, and John F. Kennedy connected to Martin Luther King and the black movement. I've never ever heard that as a suggestion as to why he was shot and killed. I've never heard it in the public ever from anybody. Have you? Please?
No, I have not.
I don't think anybody in the audience. I mean, have you ever heard that connection made like this? Or even the fact the civil rights movement and Kennedy's connection to it? He was the creator of it, for God's sake.
No, that's the other piece of it that I'm guessing is not widely known or accepted, because all you see pushed about the civil rights movement is Martin Luther King, right?
No, that's true. But the civil rights acts in the 60s were all brought to us by John F. Kennedy,
Right.
not by Johnson, not by the legislator.
Yeah.
Okay. This was heralded in by Kennedy. This was one of his missions.
Yeah.
Was to obtain this. And he did obtain that in death. But he only obtained it. That's the catch-22. That's why I think, like, even today, when I say there's different aspects to political parties, there isn't, a DNC and they all agree on everything in the same candidate. Now, will they get on the board and they'll play the same game? Yeah, but they'll fight over who's in charge of that game before they'll get on board, right? They bend the knee if they lose the particular narrative fight. They're trying to pick a candidate now. They decided that. So people are going to be bending knees here, but not everybody's going to agree with Kamala being appointed like that. I suggest, and I think everybody should say that Tulsi Gabbard should throw her hat in the ring. Tulsi Gabbard was the woman that destroyed Kamala Harris and forced her to drop out of the primary against Biden with not a single vote. Kamala quit with no votes. How thoroughly destroyed she was by Tulsi Gabbard. I personally would think that Tulsi Gabbard, I hope, you don't hear, she's usually a pretty vocal person. You don't hear anything around this from her. And I'm hoping maybe she's preparing to challenge the convention on the floor on the 19th of August. That would make for an interesting little spectacle. And Democrats will then see that they have no power to pick their candidate. It all comes from the party.
Wait, the convention is not until the 19th. I thought they had to pick their candidate by the 1st.
They do, but that's actually not an official.
Okay.
That's a preliminary thing based on a phone call.
Gotcha.
Okay. That doesn't mean you still can't convention. You can't challenge it through the convention through the DNC's own rules. Yeah. I'm just not. I know that the Clintons and the Obamas, although they'll work together, it's not because they have the same funders or the same ideology or the same motives. Okay. The overall motive, yeah. So they'll all get together and try to eliminate your guns. You follow me?
Yeah.
So they do work together. There's no question about it. But there is a divide, and the same thing in the Republican Party. You got the Cheneys and the Ryans and the McConnells and the McCains, and you got all these other groups of political henchmen that are against anybody that supports Trump and the supporters of Trump. Right? You see that plain as the sun in the sky. So
Yeah.
it's very common for political parties to have these divisions. You got one hell of a fucked up picture. I got to tell you that. I got to reduce your ass, bro. Starting to hurt my eyes with that.
What the hell? What's wrong with my picture?
You should go out with JFK's last speech. I don't know what that means. Go out with it.
Yeah, when you end the show tonight.
Oh, how long is his speech?
Yeah, I don't
Where
know.
is his speech? I don't know. Central Bank did it. Dick Gregory talks about central banks. I mean, all of those things are great theories, but I think also, look at they just took a shot at Trump because he's Hitler, right? Imagine the Democratic Party being put in a position by a candidate that they helped get elected, and then he immediately jumps into civil rights. Imagine being a party full of racists. Literally, there's look at they were openly on the KKK was Democrat, right? And then this guy gets the helm. He's gonna make the black man equal to you.
So the thing I would need to understand in order to truly support your theory, right? Because I don't believe anything in terms of methodology or principles has changed with really anything.
Okay.
So if Kamala gets the DNC push, right, official, she's the candidate, then I need an explanation as to how that works with this theory, because I do not see her being somebody that's just going to go along. I think she's got too much of a chip on her shoulder.
Who, Kamala?
Yeah.
No.
You don't think
anything so? Anything you see Kamala put forward is scripted by the party for a particular message.
Okay.
Right? And that's always to demonize and turn everybody into your enemy. Anybody that doesn't agree with you is your enemy. That's how Democrats always campaign. Right? If you don't believe in global warming, you're the enemy of the world. You're the enemy of me. You're stupid. You're ignorant. You're a fucking asshole. You hate the planet. That's all the Democrats can do. And the best thing about that is, as I wander around through a whole bunch of black channels, one dude today had to tell him, I don't know, and I don't mean any disrespect, but dude, when you laugh, you sound just like a chimpanzee. It's the most incredible fucking thing I've ever heard. Because, dude, it was true. I should have saved it. It's the funniest thing. I've heard people laugh. They sound like donkeys. They sound like you've heard a lot of fucked up laughs in your time, right?
Yeah.
This fucking dude just sounded like a chimp. It was the craziest thing. And the fact that he's a black host almost made me feel like I shouldn't say anything, but who gives a fuck what color he is? Anybody could sound like a fucking chimp. And he just happens to be one of them anybody's. So I posted that in his comments.
Oh, hell.
Listen, I talk shit to everybody. I don't, you know what I mean? I mean no harm in it. And I don't think anybody, if you heard us laugh, would disagree with me. He'd be like, yeah, he does. You're just all too afraid to be funny about it and say it out loud, because that's some funny shit, man. All right? Oh, you're a racist. No, I'm not a racist, bro.
This comment you've got on the screen, the one
before,
yeah, I saw a headline come across her phone today about that, and I was curious as to who this guy is.
Right.
You know what I mean? The man the man himself. Who is he? I would be curious to know more about him, because I was wondering. I didn't see what he had picked, but I pretty much guaranteed, considering it was coming across a news source, push notification on the phone, it was probably suggesting that he was leaning toward Kamala. And now I know that's exactly what it was doing. Because I don't think they would come out and say the guy that's predicted the correct president for the last 40 years has picked Trump, because everybody would be like, no shit. You know what I mean?
Well,
it really wouldn't be news to hear somebody pick Trump. So, but I would be curious as to why.
The convention's in Chicago, okay? Right?
Yeah.
And there's a big segment of the black community that's furious, man. Absolutely fucking furious.
Mm-hmm.
That all the hotel rooms, all the money, all the food, medical is given to all these illegal immigrants. They're besides themselves, brother. They're literally besides themselves in a way that you would be like, what? It is as bad as they were almost with George Floyd. These people are lit, bro.
I know.
Inner cities, Baltimore, Chicago, New York.
I saw a clip yesterday or the day before. somebody in Chicago, and they stopped to ask him what he thought about the immigration there. He was not happy. He was like, "Man, they're giving these fucking people shit that we ain't even got." He's like, "They're bringing all these people in, giving them 15 grand, putting them up in fucking hotels and houses and shit, and we got people sitting here on the street sleeping with no roof over their head, and they're like, yeah, fuck y'all, let's have these people."
And how about those same people are paying all them bills for it, just conveniently dropping fentanyl off in the drugs of your local fucking schools, right?
Yeah.
The same people are letting, and they're doing that too. All of them? No, but that's not the point. One's too fucking many, right?
Right. Yeah.
Look at the Kansas City 3. One night out. What happened to them? Fucking ice cube themselves, for fuck's sakes, to get some coke in themselves or whatever the fuck they were doing, right?
Yeah.
Right. And they, I'm not against people recreating, having fun, but the risk for that now, and the fact that this war on drugs, the risk has constantly gotten worse. Not for anything, but look at folks. You ought to vote me to be czar of something. And I say the war on drugs. As an ex-drug addict, and as a practical user of the product Roundup, I can attest to its effectiveness. And there wouldn't be a poppy fucking field or a fucking cocaine field left. Listen, you'd be ready to bring the concrete in and start building when I was done. Okay? Just a few flights. And I swear to God, those areas of the country would become highly developed with no plant life to obstruct anything that you want to build. Okay, we'll leave the forest alone. We'll just start with the fucking poppy fields and the cocaine fields and aerial fucking tankers. You've seen the ones that put out the fires.
Mm-hmm.
Fertilizer sprayers, crop dusters. I'd call up the fleet, bro.
A side note, we actually got a video of a helicopter crop sprayer coming up over the road right here in front of the house a month or so back. That shit was crazy. I thought the fucking thing was gonna crash in our backyard when I first heard it. And I looked around the house and I see the rudder going around, and I'm like, that motherfucker is crashing. And then it went away, and I'm like, well, what the hell? And we went out in the front yard and saw him come back up over the row of trees across the road and just whipped the damn thing around in the middle. It was wild. But anyway, yeah.
He knew exactly how to fly what he was, didn't he?
Yeah, he knew exactly what the hell he was doing. He was having a blast doing that.
Oh, yeah, he was. I would have been too, man. Flying around on a helicopter. That'd be sweet. Yeah. See, but I'm just saying, there's simple solutions to a lot of our problems, but we, the people, don't do anything except and this is our own failing. Just be aware. That's why I keep saying the world's a reflection of us. But we did have in the 50s and 40s and the 60s, and we did have a period of big economic growth and an agency standing up to take care of things that we as communities were taking care of ourselves. And we began to entrust these things, which then became institutions, which are now running us the fuck over.
Yep.
Right? The Department of Education, the Department of Transportation, Department of fucking licking my balls at Cock Tower in Beijing. All kinds of crazy shit going. What say you, Cletus?
I don't know. I've still been. I've the whole clip that you played the other night talking about the deficit has been on my mind a few times over the course of the weekend. And that's just been blowing my fucking mind. And I'm like, yeah, there really is no end to just the sheer level of bullshit that exists that we're all fucking blind to. And when we're not blind to it, we become numb to it or distracted from it by something else.
Do you know the only way money can exist is if somebody borrows it? Did you know that?
Yeah, that actually does make sense.
It's no. It's got nothing. It's an absolute. It's like 1 + 1 = 2. It's right. More than it makes sense.
Yeah,
it's the absolute truth about money. Unless somebody borrows it, then that money cannot exist. And the point being that borrowing it and using it to create transactions with others it's a level of trust in what you're using for trade.
Right.
So that's the truth about money is it must be borrowable. People must accept it as a token of exchange, right? And so when you look at the debt of America and you realize how much money this globe pours through every day, it's as big as that number is, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like an inconceivably big number. When it's all broken down into its component pieces of who we really owe that money to, the story isn't so fucking scary as it sounds, does it?
No, it's nowhere near.
Yeah.
Nowhere
We
near.
don't borrow money from China, folks. We borrow money from ourselves. Now, the last time Trump looked, it was a $347 trillion country. And that was its value 20 years ago. If it's got anything to do with the values of modern day, this country's got to be worth 999 trillion. What's that? What comes after a trillion? Do you know?
No, I don't.
Well, it's got to be above that by now. And the point being, if you got an asset that's worth, tens of thousands of times more than the debt you got on it, like I don't owe anything on my home. All the value is available to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now, if I went and I borrowed $20,000, it would be such a minuscule amount against the value of the whole, right? That I could never fuck that 20 grand up or lose it,
Right.
right? I mean, that's really the debt. If people understood what money was and why it does what it does and how it's created, they wouldn't be so stressed about the debt. We only owe 7 trillion to the world. That's it. I mean, that's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. But they didn't lend that to us like they wrote us a check, money to support Taliban and fucking blah. That's not what they did, folks. They bought U.S. Treasury bonds. And then we take that money and use it for what we want to use it for. But when that bond comes due, they get their money plus interest. So it's a continually rolling fucking debt. It's basically what we owe the world. They keep investing in us. Our productivity goes up. Their bond interest rate goes up. They cash it out. And they're happy. Just like you do with your stocks and you do with your 401ks. It's same shit, folks. Just done on a global level with other nation states. That's all. It's not a big deal. So I don't know. And the Republicans know this, but a lot of the Republicans, if you get people that know finance and know how governments work, and they explain to you exactly what you're looking at, you're not going to be as scared of the debt as Republicans terrify you into.
Well, that's really what blew my mind with it, right? And what got me thinking about it more over the weekend was just the big number, right? And the way that number is thrown around to as an outrage thing, right? It's like a trigger, or it's something that I've seen used by politicians to get their point across or to make things look really fucking bad, so that their way seems right, and it's fucking ridiculous.
It is, and it keeps us afraid. It keeps us fucking obedient. It's another level of control. That's why I say there is no political party that you can trust. They're either directly in on it, or their inaction is a form of collusion that you're not supposed to interpret that way. You're supposed to call them pussies, and Republicans are weak, and Republicans don't do anything, and you think that's a character flaw when in fact it's actually their role in the game that's being run on you. That's where the common man is just one dumb motherfucker, bro. That's why I say, if I don't know criminals have gotten this kind of fucking power, I would have stayed crooked. It's fucking incredible. It's just how fucking stupid we are, man. And we don't need to be, because the answers are always right there in front of you. You got to give it a little thought, and then wait, it's a crazy fucking world. It literally is.
Oh, it is. It is that for sure.
It is that, and I should make a motion picture or bring this to some producer of Black American films and see if he'll do a fucking miniseries on the motive of Kennedy's death.
Yeah. Fuck. Who? Spike Lee. Spike Lee absolutely would.
I need somebody a little closer to my fucking scale in fucking life, because Spike Lee would not talk to the guy that runs your Ass
don't
Hurts
sell
News
yourself
Network.
short, Sarge.
Listen, I run your Ass Hurts News Network with a co-host that sometimes don't even show up.
If you wrote a message to Spike Lee and said that, hey, I run your Ass Hurts News Network. We're globally syndicated across YouTube and Rumble.
Do I gotta copyright this video? What do I do to protect my?
Well, it's already copyrighted.
Nobody else can use this without my approval.
No, well, they can under fair use, but the concept is now yours, copyrighted.
Damn.
Yeah.
Spike Lee. My new call. Instead of the D, it's Spike Lee. Almost rolls off the tongue the same way. Oh my God. Adam girl didn't hear her notifications. Well, you got to turn them hearing aids up at certain times of the day. Back them batteries. Oh man, Cletus, it's fucking awesome. It's awesome watching some of the stuff I've been watching. I was over. I got to see if anybody's replied to me on Twitter yet.
I haven't watched a whole lot of anything here the past few days, other than cooking videos and crafts and shit. Clues had control of the remote pretty consistently and has been squirreling the fuck all over the place with it.
What the fuck is that a picture of, Ogden girl? Are those goats? Let me kiss her ass because I was talking about her. I'm sorry if I exposed your hearing impairment. It wasn't intentional.
I think they are goats. I can't see it that well on this little screen on this phone.
Oh yeah, you're on a phone.
Yeah.
What about the Olympics? Aren't you watching any? What Olympics? The Olympics are on? I never liked the Olympics, folks. I never liked it from I was a little kid. I didn't like it.
Yeah, I did catch a little bit of something about that. So apparently there's a big hoopla about something to do with the opening ceremony, and they had what little I have seen. Right, the implication is that they had a drag show that was mocking the Last Supper. Right, they were mocking Jesus. Now we went looking for this and couldn't find anything that actually backed any of this up. And I'm like, obviously, what they were playing a recording of did happen, but I can't find the original recording anywhere, and I can't find anything that vets the claims that I've heard made about it. And it's like, well, now what the fuck is this? Why are y'all trying to create outrage over the fucking Olympics?
So did it happen or did it not happen? You don't know?
I didn't see it firsthand, and I've yet to be able to see the entire thing. I mean, we've looked at Olympics opening ceremony and all this shit and cannot find it. But I have seen videos of people talking about they did videos on it and then were copyright struck, all from YouTube to fucking Twitter, if they reviewed it and commented on it. And I'm like, now what the fuck is this? You know, and the fact that I can't even find the original broadcast of it is just odd to me.
I wonder if there should be somebody out there that actually has that. There's some very, very, look at outside of the circles that have been around here for me with the true crime. There's also circles on Twitter where there's some very, very highly capable people that find stuff you're like, damn. So that video, if it was ever posted online, it's definitely not gone.
No, it's out there somewhere.
Somebody's got it somewhere.
I personally,
There's no way they don't.
We've searched for it a little bit on YouTube, but
SK216 says she sent it to Clue.
Okay, all right.
Well, that's awesome. See, there's a person that can dig.
I will. I'll tell her to pull it up. She may have, and I haven't seen it.
But there's still a controversy. So their open ceremony was to ridicule the Last Supper?
That was the narrative that I've heard, right? Again, I haven't seen it. I've seen screenshot or like still shots of it, and I see the correlation between the two, but I would have to see the whole thing to see just how, how far it goes, what the fuck it really is, and all this. I mean, it just, I don't know. But I know there isn't a massive amount of outrage over it. And I'm just like, I don't understand.
Look at this. I pulled it down. The Last Supper was gross. Drag man had his nuts hanging out of his little shorts. He was standing by little kids.
Oh.
That's just fucked, bro.
Yeah.
Leave kids alone, man. I don't care what you do with your nuts. I look at, you know what I'm saying? Fucking swing them around telephone wires and fucking I don't care what you do. Literally, right? But not around kids. Never around kids. Never around kids of consenting age, and then they wouldn't be kids; they'd be young adults, right?
Well,
When
and
they
I
get
would
to
say,
consenting age. So
I mean, I think the Olympics is an institution that inspires people, some people, right? It never inspired me to do a fucking thing, but I know there are some people that get inspired by that, and it motivates them to do certain things, right? And it's like there's a certain level of couth that I think needs to be maintained with something like that. So if that's truly what the fuck went down, then yeah, I'm completely against it. I don't give a fuck that it was drag. You could have had strippers up there and it would have been the same principle for me. Like it has no fucking place in that.
right. Well, I just told the chat room like or get out. Holy Christ!
Fucking Sarge.
Hey,
Like
well,
or
I
get
gave
out.
everybody the weird window of my mind and how it plays through all this information that's available to it.
Well, I thought that's what you do every weeknight at 9 Eastern.
Right, someone's got to do it, and I don't know anybody else that wants to get up in there and do it for me. So I
And
I
so
don't
what you're
blame them.
suggesting is the price of admission is simply clicking the like button. Is that what you're saying?
I would think that would be the least you could do when you hear such grand wisdom and decisive genius at your disposal at no cost,
Yeah.
never to be a charge, right? I mean, a clicking a button on a computer screen. It's got to be one of the
Maybe you should
quality
code.
computers.
Maybe you should code. Change the HTML code so that when they click the like, they leave. They would be fucking jumping on that shit left and right.
Should be hitting like and leaving all at the same time. It'd be the hang up on the fucking chatter. That just would be awesome, Cletus. I kind of like that. I don't know how to institute it. I'm not a programmer, but yeah. That shit would be funny. Like, boom, you're out of here. And then you got to call back in and maybe find your seat again. I don't know. So what's going on down there? You guys, anything with Sebastian? Any progress?
There's no progress. There's some looming things being kicked around in the background, but nothing, no progress wise. Right? It's a bunch of damn nothing. But I hear there's a bunch of drama occurring, which doesn't really surprise me. But
well, I did see a little bit of clue stream where Tony and that Seth were I don't know whose stream they were on, but she was playing it.
It's
and he's talking about how he's had surgery. I didn't know he had surgery. Was it his shoulder?
No, he had his C5 and C6. I don't really know. He said they put a spacer in there.
Oh, okay,
Now,
good deal.
My assumption would be they put a spacer in there and then fused them together, right? But I don't know. I don't know how that works. But that's what he said he had done. And yeah, I mean, other than that, it really wasn't much in that stream that was of significant interest. He didn't have
I'm
any.
glad he stuck by that bullshit artist Tony, though. I mean, that's good.
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting to see how long that plays out, because I don't.
Well,
I don't suspect it'll go on for much longer.
Why not?
I get the impression from the change in Seth that I've seen over the past little bit, right? We haven't seen near as much of him. It's been more pointed. And then, like the other night, they had an entire purpose, which was to bring Joe Petito on, which is Gabby Petito's dad. And don't really know what the purpose of that was, but Seth seems to show, in my opinion, I'm reading that he's got a lot less interest in talking about this situation. And I'm thinking it's because he's ultimately about to have to go back to work. And I'm guessing he's probably broke. He's probably blown through the money.
Oh, yeah.
So, if he's about to have to go back to work, he's not really going to have much interest in this anymore, because at the end of the day, he's got to face the harsh reality of he's got to go back to fucking work, and his son hadn't been found. And Tony's just noise. And when reality hits you and you got to grow the fuck up and go do something, the noise is going to go away, and you got to get focused back on what you got to get done. And that's kind of what I did. I would suspect within the next 30, 45 days, Tony will be a thing of the past.
Well, that'd be good, man. Because he doesn't add anything to the party, but just bullshit.
Yeah,
I mean, bullshit in life. You don't need more. You don't need someone around just to add it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Right? What the fuck, man? I want someone to piss in my pool. It'll be me. I'm not gonna fucking hire you to do it. I am fucked up with these witticisms, huh? What do you think?
Yeah. Witticisms. Is that what you call them?
That's what I've coined them. What would you call them?
Is that a term you coined? I like it. Witticism.
Of course, it's a term I coined. It comes from that genius within.
Yeah.
Or I might have found it in a book somewhere. Nonetheless,
I'm gonna fucking look it up. You can bet that. I'm gonna find the origin of that fucking word.
I do give good witticisms.
I suspect I'm gonna go to Merriam-Webster and they're gonna go, yeah, does not fucking compute.
Merriam-Webster's gonna lock up and all the words in the dictionary are gonna become misspelled. You're talking to that fucking Sergeant Friday again, aren't you? Oh shit, they might hang up on you, Cletus.
They
might. You gotta be careful.
Yeah, you gotta watch them. You gotta watch them.
See Harris's rally in Montgomery County. I wonder how big of a rally she had.
I saw a thumbnail of something yesterday about her walking off stage because only 60 people showed up at a rally of hers.
I don't know that's true. This is a rally here. They're showing pictures of it, and there's fucking it's a gymnasium, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they've got at least half or 2/3 of it blocked off by a black wall. Okay.
Okay.
Let me see if I can share this picture. Don't no hanging up today. We'll get through this quick. Present screen share. Can you see it?
Yeah.
So they're saying approximately 1,300 people showed up. I don't think that's a capacity that I don't think the area you're showing there would allow for the kind of number they're claiming. I think that's probably 600-700 people. Maybe a little north of that, but not much. Not 1,300. Look where that black wall is and look how much behind it before you get to the back of the fucking room.
Yeah, but we don't know what's behind the person taking the picture either, right?
No, that's all press. From their back is press, brother.
Okay.
Yeah. Look at all the cameras, a big row of cameras right in front of you.
1,300 would be a lot for that.
Yeah, that's excessive.
Right there.
That's under 1,000 people.
Yeah, I would say so too.
So I mean, and now I'm understanding that there's going to be black demonstrators in Chicago against the DNC. So, here, I'll show this again. Let me see here. I'll stop the screen share. I'll click on this one. You can look at it. Maybe this is more favorable. I don't want to be unfair. Just because I don't like the broad. There's another picture of it. I still don't think that's
now that makes me think less than what I was going to give them credit for. I was going to go
where the camera's located on the right. The whole back of that room is also blocked off because
I was going to go as high as like 700, but now I'm thinking something like 250.
No, I think there's more than 250 there. I think you've got to have 300-400.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, she's rocking the Casbah. There's a song for her. I think she ought to play that at her rallies. Right? Don't they say there's something like "I don't like it" in that song? I don't like it. Right. Yeah. Right. We can alter the fucking words in that song. We got this, man. Yeah, it's yeah, but she's gonna be your next president, apparently.
Well, it would not surprise me,
dude. I'm telling you, I'm actually so happy when I watch a lot of these black streams and all these. Look at it, it's not just one guy telling you. It's bringing in all these other people. There's big panels. There's Zoom calls. Dude, it's all fucking all over the place in big numbers. One guy's got like 2.1 million followers, and he gets hundreds of thousands of views. He's like, he's like the JLR of Twitter, but for the black community, right? Yeah. But he's badass, this dude. And there's a few of them like that. They'd fit right in here. They'd fit in with us perfectly, bro. I got to see if I can invite one and get him in here.
It would be, I don't know. If she does win, I'll be interested to see how that goes. I'd be real interested to see how that goes because I don't know. I mean, in 2020, there were a lot of people, we were heavily involved in watching political based streams, right, and channels and things like that. And everything we saw said that there's no way in hell Biden will get 10% of the vote, let alone win, right? That's just the perception we got. So I'll be real curious to see if she does win, is there the level of outrage that I expected there would have been in 2020? Or will it just be just like 2020 all over again?
You remember? Do you remember? And this is something that's why I wish I had aligned to the Trump campaign. What the Trump campaign should be doing at this very moment is talking about Bernie Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And equivocating this to even worse than what they did to Bernie. At least Bernie had votes. At least Clinton had votes. You see?
Yeah.
Whether you like them or not. They cheated Bernie and put Clinton in, but at least there was a vast number of people that voted for Clinton. So you had a little bit of fucking tickler that you were a democracy. Now, you got no indication that you belong to a Democrat or a Democracy Party because it's the elites that are picking the candidate, not you. The media, the talking heads, the politicians, the money backers. She got $100 million overnight, and it certainly wasn't from you people that are going to vote for her. You guys didn't give her that money, right? You have a leader installed. That's what they did to you. And that Trump isn't pushing that. It's just maybe he will. Maybe someone will fucking listen to this, but that's the angle that needs to be. The Democrats need to be shown right to their own face what they're living through. And this is an appointment of a woman that nobody wanted to vote for in the primary against a crippling, mind-numbing Joe Biden, who eventually won for whatever reasons, right?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it was that Tulsi Gabbard that sunk this woman. It was like a nuke on Hiroshima. And she just dropped that shit on that woman.
Well, maybe Trump should drop maybe Trump should drop J.D. Vance and get Tulsi Gabbard as his running mate.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Or somebody should contact Tulsi and tell her to contest the convention.
Yeah.
Put a legitimate challenge in because I think Tulsi might have got a few delegates at least voted for her, or a few people may have voted for her, if I'm not mistaken. And even if she got none, she's still tied with Kamala. Right?
Well,
the worst you could do is match Kamala with 0 votes.
Yeah, there's nowhere to go but up.
There's no bottom there. You can't go any further down. You're at the base of the well. Oh man, the black hole has a bottom and you're in it. So neither one of you are in it. You're both starting off in an equal position.
Be proud. You're being coined as the Democratic nominee because there's nobody else.
Well, there's nobody that fits our narrative there's nobody that fits our narrative of hate.
Yeah.
If you don't vote for her, you hate women. If you don't vote for her, you hate minorities.
Yeah.
You're a racist. You're a sexist. You're a homophobe. And Kamala is obviously their poster child for this. But here's the problem is there's millions in the black community that see that and they're just sick of it, bro.
Well, that's what I'm just, looking back at 2020 and thinking about trying to do what they did over the course of 6 months in 2020 versus now they're going to have 2.5. It's like, wow, what what fucked up strategy are y'all going to employ to try and win this election? Because I could not imagine there being that many people in favor of her, but I may be wrong.
Well, the other thing I was going to say is I think even Obama had big rallies, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really remember the country being that fucked up over Obama. There were some people that didn't like him.
No.
I didn't even really follow politics that much, but I knew of him. I knew who he was, and honestly, I didn't really give a shit if he won or the other guy. I wasn't heavily opposed to either one. You know what I mean? I was familiar enough with it to know that. So, But yeah, I don't know. It'll be
Yeah, I just think that the true colors of who these people really are on full display with them getting and doing what they did to Joe, getting him in there, and then they controlled what was going on. Let's be clear. We all know Joe signed what he was told to sign. Fair enough.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't know. I teeter on that. I mean, you make a really strong argument for that, right? But I don't. At the end of the day, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. I suppose there's some accuracy to that. However, we see his cognitive abilities, his inability to move around. You see that. So either this was an act that he was putting on, which I, in some respects, considered strongly, because the minute you started accusing the guy of crimes that he actually committed, he turned into fucking Einstein, bro. And he could have a legitimate fucking discussion with you and use facts that you didn't even know existed in his head. And he's very cognizant, and he's very in the moment. He was with you on it, and he wouldn't. But the minute you start talking about the border, he turned into some fucking flubbering fucking idiot. You know what I mean?
The only thing that worked on him at that point was his nose.
Yeah, it was like, fuck, the guy was made of flubber. You remember that movie where you bouncing all over the fucking places? Yeah. No, you don't know where it's going to go next. He could be talking about fucking nuclear disarmament, and the next thing he's talking about fucking boogers. But accuse him and his kid of committing crimes inside of China and the Ukraine, which in fact the Department of Justice found evidence that he did. I don't know. That's the funny thing about that is you can actually find this. This is true from the Justice Department. They didn't go to prosecute Mr. Biden because of his age and his apparent confusion that it wouldn't be just to prosecute him for those crimes. Now, if that's your reason for not moving forward with the prosecution, how is that guy making personal day-to-day choices that aren't being directed to him? I just can't wrap my head around both of those being true.
Well, it's interesting that you talk about that, because I've seen some sort of comparisons of Kamala in things that she said, and it just registered with me that she, if your theory is accurate, then she's doing the same fucking thing Biden does, playing fucking stupid for the camera. Because I've seen some detailed long quotes or snippets from things that she said that make absolutely no fucking sense. Especially
they do. Are you talking about that one statement where she says the past?
No, the one that really sticks out in my head is the one where she's talking about work, and it it was the dumbest fucking thought I've ever heard. It was like somebody. It was like talking to a 5-year-old that was explaining what work is. And I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was funny as hell when I read it, and I'm like, what a fucking dumbass. Like, what are you doing?
What did she get off topic, or did she just give a bad definition?
It literally, if you had a 5-year-old that understood what work was, right, and asked them to explain it to you, what she said would be what you got. It was literally that fucking just elementary, and I don't know. It was so stupid though, and I'm just like, this literally came from Kamala. But it makes a lot of sense if your theory is accurate and that Joe puts on a show. Hell, she may be doing the same thing.
Yeah, I want to comment to this, okay, to Carrie. Do you know what the difference between a Jamaican black and an American black is, Cletus? You know what the major difference between those two people are?
What?
One of them never made it to America to be a slave. Can you guess which one that might be?
The Jamaicans.
Oh, yeah. So listen, folks, in all fairness, there's a probability, a very high probability, that if Harris, his father, was from the island of Jamaica, that somewhere in his family were brought over in the slave trade. There's a likelihood of that. I don't know it to be true, but the Jamaica was a place where slaves were brought and then auctioned off and went off to different areas. So, I don't like getting into the definition of if you're a black human being. That's it. I don't really give a fuck where you came from. Like, I think African American is the most insulting fucking statement you can make to a black person. I'm literally besides myself that they even accept that.
Yeah, especially.
I'm not Italian American. My grandparents were Italian American. They were born and raised in Italy, and they came here.
Yeah.
And then they had kids that were born here, that had kids that were born here, that had kids that one of them being me. I'm American with an Italian heritage, right?
All right.
And every black person in America is fucking American with a heritage from the continent of Africa, or maybe even they know their country of origin, right?
Right.
But they're American first. Fuck that African American. Man, I wish I had a microphone into the black community. I think that they would see that if someone pointed that out to them, I think they would agree with it. Why are you African American and some fucking dude like me that came over 2 generations ago is just American? Your fucking family's been here for hundreds of years. It don't make no sense to me.
Because it's the subliminal fucking message that keeps
Yeah.
segregation, right? Like
Subjugation by difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes us see them different. It makes us see their color. It makes them know that they came from slavery. It reminds them of their color. And that whole term African American should be set on. If there's any word in America that should be removed, it should be that one. Because no matter how many times I call my good friend niggers, I never call them African American. I can't even find a way to make that funny. But someone that screws up a simple part on a brake job, okay, certainly nigger rig those guys' brakes. So I'm not afraid. I think that word is perfectly fine to use in context, not as a way to attack or demean or hurt somebody, but as a way to just be stupid and funny and goofy. But an African American, there's no two ways about it, in my opinion. That is a filthy, degenerative, separate, decisive fucking term to label a person with, especially someone that's got hundreds of years in America with their family. So, what say you, Cletus?
I think it makes a lot of sense. It would be interesting to look at the origin of that term. And in terms, not the origin of the. I mean, I get the origin of the term.
Political correctness of it's only been around for dozens of years, right? It hasn't been forever.
That's ultimately what I'm getting at. When did it become the politically correct thing, and why? I think it would be really interesting to look.
Years, or I think.
Well, it would. I don't even want to speculate on it. I just think it'd be something that's interesting to look into and see when and why, right? Because I it's one of those things when people want to get offended by terms, right? But and then want to argue that it's offensive because of its origin. I think you make a fair point about that, but I would be curious to know when it became politically correct and why it was pushed.
I'll look it up. I'll make a note and I'll source that down. I agree with you. That's important. But I remember, well, they were called Negroes, they were called blacks, they were called colored people when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that was all taken away. And back when I was a kid, the word nigger was definitely used as an abusive way to talk to a black person. Okay, that was absolutely true. And it was a slang that was meant to insult. But now I can tell you that over the last 20 years or more, for me and friends of mine, I don't know, man. It's, to me, it's just a funny word because no matter what, it's a word, and if that word is going to keep you from going to work or something, there's something wrong with you, bro. It's just a word.
Like Willie Nelson says in his book, "Where I'm from, we only knew so many words, so we used every one of them we did."
Right. Dude,
that fucking guy is funny.
My one friend is he's very short, and we call him Negro on the basis that if his knees had grown, he wouldn't be so short. He's whiter than a fucking piece of paper. He don't mind. We got another friend that lost his leg from the knee down, and we call him who was that guy from fucking Forrest Gump, the guy that got the fake legs?
Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan is his nickname.
Yeah.
We got another guy that's got from the ankle down or somewhere down below the knee, and we call him Kickstand. I mean, we're just a fucked up. That's just bullshit that we say to each other, those dudes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just.
And so that's why I say these words are not. There should be no prohibited words. But I think when you address another person, it shouldn't be by their. I don't want to see someone as African American. I see him as American. Period. End of story.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right, Cletus, this is pretty awesome. Went 14 minutes over. That's a record for you.
I know it. Right.
You know, and I'm not even going to hang up on you. I'm going to let you just sign off. There you go. He signed right off. So Willie Nelson for president sign in town. There you go. Yeah, Heidi, I think all words, though, have got a place in society with humor or wisecracks among friends. Or, you know, I think telling people not to say things because it's just kind of strange when we're white guys. So, to use that amongst us is just kind of funny. You'd have to be there or be a part of the crew to get it. Some people's humor is different than others. What are you going to do? Anyway, folks, it was a good stream. I think. I hope anybody that comes back and listens, rather than jump into the end, you listen to the civil rights movement's connection to John F. Kennedy. And otherwise, everyone have a good night. We will be back again at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from Beijing, China, atop the Cock Tower with the Lick My Balls Convention Center. It's Sergeant Friday. You all have a good night.